Dippin' Dots, absolutely mental. Just tiny, tiny little ball bearings of ice cream. Who thought that is an efficient way of delivering a delicious dessert?
It's the ice
And yeah,
cream of
it's
the
in a tiny
future.
little. Sorry, here we go. I've got this. I can't remember where it is, but I've got one of the UNC little baseball hats that I got with you. We sat
Yep.
together watching whatever spring afternoon baseball game, and this person gives me a little plastic baseball hat filled with probably 800 tiny balls of ice cream, which, like, that can't be the most efficient way of delivering ice cream to anyone. Hello, and welcome back to Athlantic, the show where an American and a Brit take turns crossing the pond to learn about sports culture in the UK and the USA. I am your resident Brit, Harry
And
Collins.
I am your resident American, Adam Jordan. And folks, it's a week unlike any other. It is Masters Week, so we're pumped. I am obviously we've clearly both got our hats on. It is always so much fun, but we will refrain from diving too deeply into that just yet because Harry, you've got a patron saint for us today.
I do. I have a number of contenders, and I'm gonna say why we're not gonna go
We're
with
just gonna,
some more
are we just
obvious
gonna
choices.
grow the number of patron saints every week?
Yeah.
Like last time I went with two, you're gonna go with four, and it's just gonna like, we're just gonna go the opposite direction of like what we thought of, hey, it's gonna be
That's
tougher as it gets higher numbers. We're just gonna pull them out of the hat.
so. No, I really don't. I really want us to like actually tighten the screw. But there is 33 is a surprisingly popular number in one specific league. Could you just off the top of your head think about a league that has had many iconic 33s? All of these icons, I'm sure there are a couple of players at the moment who are huge that wear the 33, but I've got four superstars from the NBA.
What? Oh, whoa. Okay, so
We've
you're
got
coming over here. Okay. I like it.
I was thinking of coming over there. There's Patrick Ewing, who, if when I picture Patrick Ewing, which I don't do often, I just see that New York Knicks kit, that uniform,
Yep.
which is just dark blue, red, and white, and like it's very similar to like the Detroit Pistons, and I think genuinely one of the greatest uniforms or kits in any sport ever. I think it's incredible. Also wore the 33, Scottie Pippen, Larry Bird, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who are,
Again.
you know, maybe one of them, maybe two of them are on like the NBA Mount Rushmore, which is all the more of a shame because our patron saint is the inevitable Max Verstappen
Come on.
who wore who wore the 33 before he wore the number one in Formula One.
You had
And I
me.
wanted to show big respect to some icons of the NBA because we don't really talk about the NBA much. I think it's the league that I have the least exposure to in the UK, even though basketball is having a huge moment in London.
Oh, interesting.
And I know you love college basketball,
Yep.
but not necessarily a massive fan. Um, or you love to focus on college ball, I think, with our affiliations to UNC. But yeah, I think um, recognizing some absolute titans from the NBA might be a sort of indicator that we'll start showing these legends a little bit more respect. But I have chosen an athlete
You
that we kind of both dislike in Max Verstappen.
So you did respect but dislike.
Yeah,
You
100%.
absolutely you completely you said you wanted to tighten the screw. Well, you twisted it to the left, my friend, because that wasn't even like options. You just listed like four or five different NBA
Yeah.
players and just then we're like, "Oh yeah, and Max Verstappen." All right, we'll take it. That means this is going to be a four-time title winning episode. That said, have to say one thing,
Yeah.
like Max Verstappen and the Dutch. Gotta highlight the color orange because, my friend, you're gonna have Knicks fans all over you. Because color, you think you said there was like the blue jersey with the white
Yeah, I
and the
did say
red.
red. Yeah.
It's orange, man. Gotta we
Uh-huh.
before we
Yeah.
before you hit that, like, I don't even know how you're gonna do it, mammoth of a New York episode on the which American cities have the best named sports
No.
teams series. We're gonna get that cleaned up. But otherwise,
All right.
I
Thank you. I
like it.
appreciate that. Thank
Um,
you.
I'm just trying to protect you. But yeah,
No.
it's I'm we're we I like this exploration of some other sport,
Yeah.
of some other
I just
legends.
I can't think other than sports where uniforms and squad numbers are defined by positions. I can't think of another sport where so many superstars have worn the same number.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like paying homage to each other. And obviously, like 23 is huge in basketball as well. But Ewing, Pippen, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are probably in many people's like dream team.
Yeah, totally.
But for a variety of reasons. And I think it was really cool that they all wore the number 33.
It is.
But just not cool enough to take away from the unstoppable force that is Maximilian Verstappen, and that is his middle name,
Ma- what?
Emilian.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
I was like Maximilian Verstappen. Anyway, you were ahead of
Yeah.
me there. I yeah, it's an interesting one because it's not like an obvious number, you know. But I do feel like there's a lot of
Oh,
that in basketball, especially where you'll have players kind of pay homage to past legends through their
right.
numbers, and I mean that happens in all sports. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like a lot of that happens in basketball. I don't know why for some reason, but yeah, pretty awesome. But yeah, speaking of things that are pretty awesome, I can't go on any longer without just like getting so excited about the Masters. Today, as we're recording, was the par
Uh-huh.
three competition, which always just like it's the nice appetizer that gets you in the mood. You see like all the families out on the par three short course
Yeah.
at Augusta with like the kids in the caddy outfits, and it's just such a great time. And you see yesterday there was stuff with the champions dinner, and I don't know, it's just like a week before, when you've got the Augusta National Women's Amateur, uh, like
Yeah.
basically from when that starts, the Masters social media accounts just start pumping out content, and they do such a great
Uh-huh.
job, and it just gets you in the mood. So I am incredibly excited.
You you are a huge fan of the Masters social media. That's all you've talked to me about in the last week. I'd say all I've got, and like good because it is amazing. And it's just, I mean, the prestige of this event just oozes, even in what is quite a tacky like communications um like funnel like on Twitter or Instagram. I know that's like it's the platform of the people, but even there, like the masters, just like their posts look like they're glowing
Yeah, it's like a yeah.
amongst the rest of the. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
It's
it like
there's a
feels like you're
gravity
in
to
the middle
their
of a scroll.
pictures.
Yeah, you're like in the middle of like a doom scroll, and then all of a sudden you just like see like a certain shade of green, and your cortisol
Yeah, yeah,
levels
yeah.
go down, and you just start feeling good. But yeah, I'm very excited. Are you um like, does the Masters hold as much reverence in the UK, do you think? I know that golf is like, I don't know, I feel like golf supersedes, like golf kind of has its own culture, but obviously like
Sure.
the cradle, the
Um,
birthplace of golf in Scotland, and obviously that kind of
yeah.
reverberates throughout the island. There's very much a distinct culture there, but I don't know, does the Masters like kind of hold the same, like, do people hold the same reverence for it?
I think so. I think it translates quite well. I think, and we discussed the Masters about a year ago, after you went last year, and we talked about how the the special nature of that very specific, really well conditioned and maintained environment, where it has all of its traditions, and just the level of respect. I think that translates really nicely to uh, older traditional European audiences. Not necessarily like not saying that the audiences themselves are older, but like that tradition, I think actually speaks to like we have many like country houses and like literal palaces and castles which are maintained and sort of um, I keep trying desperately not to say the word aura, but
Every
it is
episode
that.
it comes
And
out.
I hate it so much. But you know, we've got all of these you know, these stately homes that have perfectly manicured gardens. And I think while that does exist in America, and it is a rogue and lazy stereotype to say that like that sort of elegance and grace doesn't exist in America, because it absolutely does. But I think one of the principal places where it is most on show is at Augusta National. Um, and I think it's fantastic. And I actually think, and this is definitely something that we said last year, the fact that it's not completely drowning in commercial signs and logos. This T box isn't brought to you by T-Mobile. The replay isn't a Verizon replay. That makes every piece of media and every piece of footage completely timeless, and sort of it allows so much more immersion. And I think that's something that we're losing from our sport as well. You'd be lucky, but like the we've said this before. I think the closest thing we have to like a masters level, like in terms of prestige sports event, is probably Wimbledon, where everything's not guarded, but everything's really well maintained.
Yeah.
And you know that a colossal amount of work goes into the background to making sure that everything looks incredible and everything feels tangibly special. Even though we're in, we're now into the second quarter of the 21st century where everything is hyper commercialized. The Masters and Wimbledon get to stand above that, and for that, I think there's enormous amount of respect. Also, the Masters are a really good watch because it's on the eastern seaboard, so we can finish just before like 1 o'clock in the morning, which is always a win.
True. Yeah. Again, go back to episode 15 where I kind of take an appreciation for watching American sports as a Brit as opposed to an American watching sports over in the UK.
Yes. Before we move on, I want to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the Masters, and I think this will bookend our conversation about the Masters, we are going to try something new on Athlantic. Last week, you made me watch 10 maybe celebrities. Some of them I really had no idea who they were. Yell about NASCAR and starting your engines. And what I'm going to do this time is return the favor by putting you on the spot with a blind ranking game.
Hey.
I am going to list one at a time traditions from the Masters.
Ooh.
And I want you to tell me between 1 and 10 which ones you think are perhaps the most important or the most special or just the ones that you like the most.
Okay.
You can justify them, but I'm not going to let you change them.
Okay.
And also, it's not necessarily the list of the ones that you're expecting. So you've got to be a little bit strategic. I'm sure everyone at home has seen blind
Oh
rankings
boy.
before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You've got to be a little bit strategic with where you put everything, because some of these are very minor and some of them are huge.
So like, yeah, so I'm
So
not gonna come out the gate probably and put your first one at number one because then, yeah, never know. This will be
no, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, huge risk.
okay. This will be fun.
Or don't leave 10 open until the end and
True.
accidentally put, you know, the what are the flowers? Azaleas?
Yeah,
Is that what they're
yeah.
called?
The azaleas. Yeah.
God, I really didn't think I was going to pull that out of my head. As I started that sentence, I was like, "Well, there is a
Didn't know where I was gonna
30% chance
finish.
I'm getting this right." Okay, your first tradition: no phones.
I'm gonna break my own rule. Number one, absolutely top tier. I am
Wow.
coming out the gate swinging with number one because I'll tell you what, as somebody who has been fortunate to attend the Masters twice, I will wax poetic forever about how not
Uh,
having my phone there and having nobody else have their phone there elevated everything else about the experience. I think
yeah,
it's number one
that's really
because
cool.
it makes whatever 2 through 10 are, it makes all of them better.
That's a wonderful justification. Like, absolutely fair play. Your second one is the Champions Dinner.
We're going to go 4.
Four, great. Your third one is letting amateurs sleep in the crow's nest.
We'll
For
go.
those of you who have only a passing interest in the Masters, the crow's nest is like kind of like a dormitory on the top of the white building that you see that's on the trophy, right?
Yeah.
And amateurs are invited to sleep up there if it's their first go, I think.
It's the amateurs are all allowed to sleep there. I don't think
Oh,
I
wicked.
don't know if all of them do every night anymore because like I don't know, even amateurs
Sure.
now have like have sponsorships and have like things like in ways that
Yeah,
they'll want to
yeah.
prepare to, but like it's definitely a cool tradition. But yeah, it's literally like up at the very top of the clubhouse. I'll put
That's really
that
cool.
one. That's a really cool one. I'm gonna put that at 7 though, I think.
Seven. Great. Calling the back nine the second nine.
If you put calling the front nine the first nine as a separate one, I'm going to strangle you through the screen.
I
Um,
I haven't.
let's um, let's put that one. I'm gonna put that one actually at 10. Not because I dislike it. I actually think that that kind of lingo is kind of fun, but because I just think that there's so many better ones. And also, I've heard people like on the grounds of Augusta that are like champions of it like call it the back nine and the front nine. So
Yeah, sure.
um I'm going 10 for that one.
Great. Keeping your seats.
Oh, like you put your chair down
You can put your chair
and
down
it'll
and no
stay.
one's gonna no one's gonna take it. I think I love that so
That is
much.
a really good one. I'm gonna go 3.
Three, great. What did I just put it? Okay. The green jacket.
Go 5.
Five for the green jacket. One of the most symbolic prizes in global sport. Okay, fine.
It's incredible, but
Next
I
one.
only have like the 2 spot left there in the top.
You've got two, six, eight, nine available. Your next one is the par three contest that happened on today, on Wednesday, as we record.
I'm gonna put that I'm gonna put that one at 9. I just talked about how I love the par three contest, and I do, but once you've seen a little bit of it, you've kind of seen all of it. So I think there's more good to come.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I get that. I like that. So that is nine. No running.
Oh,
Only the golfers are allowed to run.
uh, I want to put that at 2 because I think it's awesome along with the phones thing, and I think it kind of speaks to the overall like
Uh-huh.
environment they foster among the patrons. But I'm gonna regret it if I put that in the 2 spot. So I'll put that at 6. I have left. I have what 6, 8,
You
and 2. So
do have
6. Yeah, we'll
six.
put that at 6.
You now only have eight and two.
Yeah.
No logos.
Oh, like no like sponsor logos.
That that very limited commercialization.
I'll put that.
The last one is a doozy.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
It could be huge, it could be awful.
I'm gonna put that at 2 for exactly what you said before of like it makes every moment timeless when you look back on it.
Sure.
And also,
You
it
know what
makes for
else
an
is timeless?
amazing viewership experience on TV because the commercials are so limited.
Great. That's a really good point. But do you know what else is timeless?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
The concession prices.
Oh no, that's going to 8, man. I probably honestly I feel really good about my rankings. I feel
You've
like
smashed that.
I feel like
I
if I had to
met
go
that.
back, if like my regret, I would flip concession prices in the running thing. Um, I definitely put the running
Yeah,
too
cool.
high,
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
like that's really good. Also, don't sleep on the concessions themselves. They are like you get bang for your buck.
No.
They taste great.
Yeah, I think that's wicked.
Yeah,
That's one of my amongst like um sports in general. I love the idea that because they could make so much.
totally.
It's just it's reservation and it's like modesty, and that's such a rare virtue in a lot of modern sports. So good on them.
The Masters is just
Bring on the
such
Masters.
a
I cannot wait to watch.
yeah, it's such a gift, and I can't wait to be able to take you one day. Hopefully very soon we will
Yes.
enter the ticket lottery for to get a badge here in June 1st. That opens
Yes.
up, so mark that down on your calendar. But without further
Great.
ado, I think we're about ready to get into the main body of the episode, which doesn't have anything at all to do with golf. In fact, it almost like by definition
So,
is completely separate from golf. But we were kind of thinking before of like, what did we want to do this episode on? And one thing that we were thinking about is like, or at least that I was at the beginning, was how to discuss collective bargaining agreements. And that sounds like kind of
sure.
arcane almost. Not that people don't understand what a
Uh,
collective bargaining agreement is, but like it just doesn't feel like a very it's not like the sexiest hook for a for a podcast. But I do find it interesting because I realized like as I was thinking through it, like it's not something that I, from my experience with European and UK sports, it's really a concept that exists over there, and not even so much the collective bargaining agreement, but the statement that I wrote down that I think is true, that something that I think is unique to American sports is the fact that every 4 to 7 years or so, a league and its players union must agree to a new operating agreement, a new collective bargaining agreement.
uh,
And if they don't, then the league just might like the season just might not happen. Or at least part of the
right.
season just might not happen at all.
So, can you explain, and I think there's quite a topical example at the moment, what the players in the league are probably negotiating for every 5 to 7 years? Like what changes and what are typically on the itinerary for these agreements?
So very much depends league to league, but I mean thinking about like a collective bargaining agreement, like fundamentally it's an operating pact between this is gonna be a struggle throughout this episode to try to find synonyms for the word agreement, but you're trying to
Yeah,
basically I mean fundamentally it's an organized group of workers uh, negotiating with their company or their leadership or their business how they will under what circumstances they will agree to work. And
sure.
in the case of sports, very much depending on the league, that can mean literally anything. What the hot button issues are on the
Uh,
table. Usually what ends up happening is like in these cycles they'll anticipate one or two or three big issues coming up in the league. So like in this case, the topical one that you're talking about, I presume, is the WNBA CBA that just got
uh,
ratified here, like literally a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it might have even ratified even more recently than that, but it only got agreed to like I think two weeks ago as we record this. But essentially, in that case, that was a much broader based thing. That was a negotiation that went on basically from the time that the contract expired in December up until now. And that was a really, really hard negotiation about player pay first and foremost, like equity and payment, especially between like the percentage of league revenue and team revenue that players get compared to the
Hmm.
percentage that an NBA player will get, which it's almost, yeah. Um, it was about things like housing. It was about things like travel to games. It was about how teams deal with how teams deal with parents and like birthing parents and non-birthing parents within the league and what
Sure.
rights players have in that regard. So in this case, it was a little bit of everything. Coming up at the end of this year, Major League Baseball's collective bargaining agreement will expire. That one is pretty much gonna almost exclusively be about a salary cap potentially in the league, and we can get into that. But
Wow.
yeah, a lot of things can come up on the table. This one was a huge win for the players with the WNBA. Like for example, like the going back to those issues that I was talking about coming out of this CBA, the minimum salary in the league is now greater than the maximum salary was just a month ago.
Great.
The
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah, players that are earning less than 500,000, I believe it is, are entitled to housing covered by the league. All
Wow.
flights, no teams will have to fly commercial anymore. They will all be flying chartered planes, just as every men's league does,
Christ.
every major men's
Yeah,
league,
yeah,
that
yeah.
is. And they have like some guaranteed provisions and benefits for non-birthing parents. So like if a player was pregnant or giving birth, like then they had certain provisions under the last CBA. Well, this time they've made it equal for other players who are parents in the league, and also added trade protection, which I didn't realize wasn't a thing until there was a story about it. There was a high profile case like a year or two ago, but they essentially codified the fact that if you're pregnant, your team can't trade you, which makes a ton of common sense, but these are things that need to be
That's
codified.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, again, to your point, or to your question, like, what are these things about? They can be about a little bit of anything.
So I imagine some of these negotiations become really contentious and drawn out. And you said this year baseball's agreement will end and they will go into, I imagine the negotiations take place long before the contracts end anyway. But if in the event of a stalemate, who has who has the most power? Like what is the outcome of a non-agreed CBA, and how does that actually look for the athletes, the leagues, and the fans?
So again, it'll depend on the situation.
Sure, yeah.
In modern times when owners of teams are have more wealth than ever, when you're starting to see more owners be, at least on the men's league side, be billionaires rather than multimillionaires.
Uh-huh.
Um, a lot of times it ends up mostly working out in favor. It pretty much, and this has actually been true really forever, but they mostly work out in favor of the ownership. So one of two things will happen in case of a stalemate. So usually these are pretty much these agreements expire at the end of a season. So they try to basically
Sure.
maximize the amount of time that they'll have to negotiate. And yeah, during the season and beforehand,
Hmm.
there'll be some negotiations back and forth about what could be coming up in the collective bargaining agreement. But if it's not a super straightforward, cut and dry, like, oh, we're happy, there's relative labor peace, then they kind of allow that off-season time frame to have one of two things happen: either a strike or a lockout. rare that players are going to go on strike in an off season because it just doesn't
Sure.
do much for them. Whereas like the owners will often lock out the players from using team facilities during the off season, for example, as a point of leverage.
It's crazy.
So I mean that's and like at the end of the day, those are the two options if there is an agreement. Either the players are leading it and it's a strike, or the owners are leading it and it's a lockout. And in some cases, if that lockout or strike stretches into the season itself or deeper into the off season at the very least, it can result in lost games or missed games. It can certainly before that disrupt draft schedules. It can disrupt player movement. So like the
Wow.
league, the teams won't be signing players during a league or free agents during negotiations. They won't be trading players, so that will all stop. Training camps can be threatened, or spring trainings in the case of MLB. So yeah, it can definitely be it gets messy very quickly, but a lot of times these things will end up resolving themselves in the off season. So you'll hear a lot if you look up things about the upcoming MLB CBA, which expires on December 1st of this year. That will almost certainly go into a lockout. The owners will almost certainly lock out the players. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean
Crazy.
that we're going to miss games, though. That like
Sure, sure.
the percentage chance of a lockout super high. The chance that we're going to miss games tough to say until we see these negotiations, but early signs are not good on the MLB side.
It's it's remarkable to me that specifically these mega leagues in the US will risk damaging the product by literally not allowing players to access facilities and um, potentially risk missing whole games. Like the lost revenue must be huge. It's this is the bit that I think is really alien to British and European sports fans because collective bargaining agreements do exist in European sports,
Okay.
but they are nowhere near as common and they're nowhere near as powerful. And the only I cannot think of an instance in English football, and I'd happily be corrected here. I can't think of an instance in English football where there was any sort of league shut out other than COVID,
Interesting.
um, which obviously has nothing to do with collective bargaining. And
I don't know.
I think
Those coronavirus cells were collectively bargaining against humanity. That was terrible.
they had an incredible union, yeah.
That was yeah. I'm
Um,
keeping that in, by the way.
so the so these player unions is what they really are in America, right?
Yeah, exactly what they are.
So they wield such a power because I think they're only dealing with with one specific league, right? And this comes down to, unfortunately, this takes us back to episode 15 where we talk about the difference between European and American sport. It's so much harder to have a CBA in European sport and to use football as an example because there are multiple competitions.
Yeah,
Not everything is fed through the FA, not everything is fed through the Premier League or the Football League. And because these are open leagues, with what group of teams
yeah.
are you agreeing things? Because that's going to change. There are going to be three different teams, or in the lower leagues, six or more teams different because we're now the championships just changed its playoff schedule to include eight teams.
Oh,
The ambiguity for who you're actually dealing with for what you said, most of these CBAs are sort of several years. Few to a several years.
yeah,
You can agree with all 20 Premier League teams for anything that lasts more than a single season. And we have things like um, the Professional Footballers Association, the PFA, and we have FIFPro or FIFPro, who are like representatives of a players' union, and they step in, but they're I think they're quite impotent organizations. After spending quite a lot of time on the FIFPro website, I could find three examples of where like collective bargaining agreements have uh, had any strong impact on the way a league is played, and none of them have that much to do with money. It's all about either player welfare or the distribution of media rights. There's no, I think actually the player relationship with the league is very rarely a part of it unless it's about like literal player safety.
Interesting.
So we do have them in Europe. Unfortunately, two of my examples are both in North and South America. But yeah, they happen. But because there are so many different stakeholders, they're far less common in Europe.
Interesting. Yeah, I've it's never made sense to me how it would work. Just be honestly, the promotion relegation aspect of it all, I think in the first place makes it tough. Unless like you're start almost like I feel like you'd almost have to start promotion relegation from scratch to make that work. Start like have a
Uh,
define a year zero and then you go from there and then everybody
yeah,
has to agree. But
but then
how do you get everybody to agree? And I feel like
yeah,
that would be a legal nightmare if some player, if a group of
yeah.
players that from a team that wasn't in that league when the CBA was ratified, breaks away and tries to challenge that in court or something. I could definitely see that going haywire. But
Speaking of, probably some of the most seismic changes to like player welfare and sort of freedom of labor have come in like actual European courts of law.
oh, interesting.
The English and European sports and American sports have very different ideas of free agency. They work in slightly different ways. But in Europe, we have free agency because a player called Bosman took his team to court because they were infringing on his European Union right to movement of labor.
Wow.
And it was such a massive case. It had this huge trickle down impact on every single player's contract, which said, "Hey, at the end of your contract, you can do literally whatever you want. You can sign for whoever, and you can negotiate with different teams in the last 6 months of whatever contract you have. Before that, you were still owned by the team, even though you don't have like an existing contract with them, and that was infringement of the European of the EU right for the movement of labor. So instead of CBAs, we just have like whole continental legal proceedings, but obviously that happens a whole lot less.
Yeah.
The only real instance of a CBA being used in the last 15 years in European sports happened in La Liga, where prior to the CBA, each Spanish football team negotiated its own media rights, which meant the two giants of Spanish football, Barcelona and Real Madrid, had just unbelievable amounts of money rolling in
Yep.
for their for their exclusive rights, and smaller teams really like fed on scraps. And it was, I know at some point we'll get onto how media is licensed in America on a local, regional, and continental
The
level, and we're,
RSN
we're not
episode is
ready for that
coming up.
conversation yet. It's going to be huge. That'll be like a three-part, and it'll be longer than the Lord of the Rings. But the collective bargaining agreement was passed down through the Spanish courts of law and said everyone in La Liga has to they all have to collectively agree to sell all of their rights to one distributor, and as a result, Barcelona and Real Madrid, who previously had 42% of all media revenue in La Liga, had that cut to 34%, which in a 22 team league is still a colossal amount more
Yeah,
than like the next
they're still doing okay.
best than the next yeah, they're doing really well, but this was one of the dominoes, one of the first dominoes that fell that led us to the precipice of the Super League.
Yeah, and it makes like
So
total
if
sense.
anyone,
It makes total sense also like that this would be that you'd have trouble with figuring this out across like jurisdictions too because yeah, you think about it for like the
yeah,
Champions League competition where that's going across all sorts of countries and like to your point before, a lot of this is aided by the fact that there is a European Union that I'm sure it did help back when you guys were in the European Union. Grumble, grumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like having players crossing international borders so often would
Yeah.
really kind of it would make it tough for certain, intercontinental competitions as well. But yeah, to your
Yeah,
point, like
sure.
it feels like players in because you're only dealing with one league, players in the US have so much more leverage. Now, that said, you started off that bit kind of talking about how like it doesn't seem to make a ton of sense why the players would ever, or why the owners would ever kind of let that um, let their product get diminished for so long. And I want to hit back on that point, or kind of answer that question by saying they look at it as a long game, especially as sports becomes
Sure.
more and more of a business and less of like a pastime. And it's always been a business,
Uh,
but more of like, you have business people that are making these decisions. Uh,
yeah.
you look at it as your investment. You're willing to take that short term hit of, all right, your season's going to be diluted, or, gosh, in some cases even lost, to make that to make that those gains, those financial gains, even higher down the line. And nowhere is that more
Sure.
prevalent and more is that more relevant to or relevant than with the NFL, because the NFL just has so much power. It's the biggest league in the world. They have the ultimate leverage. Their owners are, incredibly wealthy. And even if the NFL lost a significant chunk of a season, um, and had to use replacement players or something like that, the people would
Right.
still come
Okay.
back to the product and would still grow over time.
Sure.
Um, the NFL kind of found this out about 15-ish years ago, maybe a little less than that, maybe like 12,
Uh,
when the collective bargaining agreement that they had with the officials union expired, and the officials
oh yeah.
went on strike for a short period of time, and for about 3 or 4 weeks of the season, they basically had like high school referees doing games, and it famously went
Incredible.
terribly. Fun fact:
That's so
the
funny.
CBA for officials is back up again this year. So there
Yeah.
is a chance that we have replacement refs again. But all that said, it is still definitely a factor. I think the nightmare scenario there's still battle scars over more than 30 years later. For Major League Baseball, for example, is 1994. That's like the dark year
Uh-huh.
for MLB, when that was the only year that the World Series was ever canceled because of a player strike. There were a
Wow.
lot of reasons for it that I don't think are necessarily helpful to get into at this point, but going into these next
Sure.
negotiations, that's kind of the context that
That's
we're living
wicked.
with. And that 1994 strike did serious damage to baseball. It really took another about 4 years for the great home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Maybe we'll do an episode on it one day. And frankly, the steroid era, where you had guys just hitting exciting home runs all the time and like throwing a
Yeah.
million miles an hour, where people started to get interest in the game again. Like the league really lost a lot of fans during that time. So like
Uh-huh.
that is, though players seem to rarely come out on top these days, there definitely is precedent for leagues losing a lot. In fact, that I'll cede the floor in a moment. But the NHL actually back in 2004 or 2005 lost their entire season. Like that entire season was canceled. They never played a single
Wow.
game.
Okay. I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the owners were dead set on implementing a salary cap, and the owners were
So
thought it was worth it to lose a season to have a salary cap.
That's so mental. So the 94 MLB season where they lost the World Series was the whole league wasn't cancelled?
You mean like the
Was the
whole season?
like did the yeah, you said that the World Series was
Oh,
cancelled, but
yes.
did they play regular
They
season games?
played like I want to say they played until like May. I don't remember exactly like again like the detail like I don't even have all of the
Yeah,
details
sure,
in
yeah.
front of me, but they played like a little bit of that season and then lost like the back half of it and then the World Series.
So, and this is a thing that we've come back to so many times, and it is so important to the essence of what Atlantic is, because this is just one consistent theme for the difference between American and European sports. Um, American sports actually end up being like the most socialist. The power
Yes.
being distributed so evenly, but also in a country that has such strict monopoly laws, albeit they seem to be completely irrelevant at the moment. In the event of a shutout, do rival leagues ever have a moment to spring up? In if when did you say the NHL didn't play?
That was 2004, 2005.
Like, is that not an opportunity for the alternative National Hockey League to spring up? Like, and I think actually maybe I already know the answer to this, but why isn't there more of an opportunity for rival leagues to appear if CBAs can be so like balanced? Wouldn't that be the antithesis of the American, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that like somebody pops up out of the
like
opportunity and makes it happen. I mean,
yeah,
the
like that's
problem
capitalism.
is it's just the problem is with that is it's just not sustainable. Like you can't like it's not like
Sure.
you can't bank on the fact that oh these, they're not going to come to an agreement and we're like there you have to think
Uh,
about the amount of money that you would have to pony up to lure those players away and to from
yeah.
something that, you know, and it's not even fully about money. Like you've always dreamed of if you're, a young New York kid, you've always dreamed of playing for the Yankees, like going to play for the, you
Yeah,
know,
sure.
I insert team name here. Like you're not gonna do it for the Jerry Seinfelds.
Uh-huh.
It's just like an odd like it's not gonna
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons why it can't happen, but that doesn't mean that the players don't go and play elsewhere. Like a lot of players went and played
Cool.
in some Canadian leagues. Some players went over to
Cool.
Russia. Others went to other parts of Europe.
Yeah.
In the WNBA, a lot of players like in previous labor issues have gone over to Europe, have gone overseas, gone to Russia, gone to Asia, has gone all over the place to find games. So like there is a little bit of that, but it's always really temporary.
Yeah, fair.
And one other quick thing to add, you mentioned the like antitrust or the anti-monopoly laws. Well, fun fact, a lot of the thing that makes it tougher for other leagues at this in this case too is that these leagues, pretty much all of the major leagues in the US have antitrust exemptions like codified into law. So,
Crazy. Crazy. Wow. I'm really glad that we got to CBAs. It can be a little bit more of a dry topic, but like understanding where players' rights are held and mobilized, I think is a really important way of like remembering that the NFL is an organization that is made up of the owners of each
yeah.
team. Like it's one big cartel, and they are dealing with a huge group of people who effectively work for each owner,
Yep.
like congruently. They just happen to pull on different colored jerseys, and it's such a fascinating, brilliant model for sport, and it doesn't make sense, and it won't work in Europe, and it never could. But it's such a delicious, um, you know, detail in the fabric of what are some of the biggest and most recognizable sports leagues in the world.
Yeah. Well said.
Now, I'm afraid that takes us to our 2 minute warning.
Well, and
I
was
can
that
hear the
whistle blown
bell,
by
but
a replacement ref?
yeah, that's why he dropped it. The poor guy's like looking for it on the ground. There's absolutely no chance we can let
Shame.
amateur refs do this again. I do though. I love the idea of like replacement players, of like, hey, we're not gonna, we're not gonna play. There's a lockout, but we still want to play some games. Let's just call up everyone from like the treble A
Yeah.
and get them in just so like we've got some product. That's fascinating. But yeah, Adam, what is our 2 minute warning question today?
Very simple today, and actually kind of tangentially related to the Masters. Harry, I want to know, what is your favorite
Yeah.
food or drink, we can add, to eat at a sporting event?
Very simple. It's a chicken Balti pie at the football. The best one in the UK is in the best one we've ever had was at Bristol Rovers, which is the only thing that I think Bristol Rovers does really well. It's incredible. It's curry and pastry. Uh, really, a staple of a good away day is turning up to Barnsley or wherever and sampling how good their local bakery is by getting a pie of some description. What's your favorite sport to eat?
Some
Sport to eat. What's your favorite
what
food
is
to
my
eat at a
favorite sport to eat? No, some
sporting event?
my favorite bit of proper scran in the U.S. I feel like it's hard to
Yeah,
beat
good.
it's hard to beat like a classic dog and a beer at a baseball game. Like that's
Sure.
just like so good. And then like you get a little ice cream
I'm
and a little mini plastic helmet. Like it's just classic, and it's
right.
for a reason.
What are they called? Dots? They're like ice dots or
Oh,
something?
Dippin' Dots, yeah.
The little Dippin' Dots. Absolutely mental. Just tiny, tiny little ball bearings of ice cream. Who thought that is an efficient way of delivering a delicious dessert?
It's the ice
And yeah,
cream of
it's
the
in a tiny
future.
little. Sorry, here we go. I've got this. I can't remember where it is, but I've got one of the UNC little baseball hats that I got with you. We sat
Yep.
together watching whatever spring afternoon baseball game, and this person gives me a little plastic baseball hat filled with probably 800 tiny balls of ice cream, which, like, that can't be the most efficient way of delivering ice cream to anyone. I didn't understand that. Like, it's fun,
May not
it's different. I
exactly.
didn't
It may not
understand
be
it
the
at
most
all.
efficient, but it's the most whimsical, and we're here for that. Whatever you think of Dippin' Dots,
It is the
it
most
is
whimsical.
whimsical. I personally, if I'm getting ice cream in my little baseball helmet, I would rather it be soft serve. But listen, if it's in a helmet, I don't really care. I've actually
Yeah,
had.
sure.
I'll be done after this because I've hit my quota. But I've had at a Pittsburgh Penguins game, they had nachos in a hockey helmet. So just put it in a cool container and
That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. I think we should do more sports uniform and equipment specific food delivery services. I want at the Formula One, I want everyone to be drinking out of a shoey. I think that's great. Thank you very much, Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely no chance you can do it in football. They barely wear anything. Um,
into the shin
Rugby,
guard.
we could do it out of like a scrum hat.
There you go.
Get the tiny little. Um, cricket,
They
cricket
should
bat.
have
Oh God, a
they should
flight
have
of shots on a cricket bat.
shots on a cricket bat or in at the Ashes in a little Ashes trophy replica.
Shots out of the
There you
ashes.
go. Boom. But that
Amazing. Yeah, great.
speaking of
Okay.
whistles, we got the final whistle now. I'm afraid to say it. Harry, do you want to get us out of here?
Yes, I want to thank everyone for watching. If you enjoyed or not, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Spotify. We're also on Instagram and TikTok where we post clips, and we've got our Which American City Has the Best Named Sports Team series, which is starting to kick our ass. We're getting to some really big cities. We're annoying quite a lot of people. It's quite good fun. Massive thanks, as always, to producer Luke for the Athlantic logo. Big thanks to Adam for editing. We don't give that props enough. Adam has edited 33 of these, and the quality just continues to increase. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone at home for listening, and catch us next time for 34.